Coming up on today's wrestling news, could Natalya jump to All Elite Wrestling?
Another twist in Ricochet's WWE contract drama.
Zack Sabre Jr. shoots hard on effing idiots.
And a WWE Raw injury storyline was a shoot.
I'm Anna Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. So loads of speculation about WWE contracts over the last few weeks, months, years, really, especially with the spectre of AEW hanging all over this and numerous moves that have already happened, of course. But one of the big names that we've spoken about who haven't renewed their contract yet is Natalya. Added to the list with the likes of, Becky Lynch and Drew McIntyre briefly. But this one could be a feasible jump to AEW, particularly because of the fact that Natalya missed last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. Good report on this. Coming through from Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp learning that Natalya was not backstage at last night's Raw. She wasn't planned for the show. Her deal is set to expire in the summer, and the company, at least internally, is very quiet about any developments. There have been talks between the two sides, but no word on how those have gone, basically. Sources in WWE, understandably, with her tenured history with the company, are hopeful that they can keep her around, but no word on a new deal being reached. And there are numerous talents and staff in AEW who push for the possibility of Natalya joining the company, and Mercedes Moné alluded to both Natalya and TJ Wilson during a recent interview. So she could be the next big name to jump from WWE to AEW. What do you reckon?
Big name is right. I would have been as surprised as anybody, I think, when this became more than just, it's gone from she hasn't signed a contract to she actually could go.
Yes.
And not just leave WWE but go to AEW. Like all of these, again, it's all very circumstantial, but all of these pieces kind of been put together at the same time.
Yeah, it's just different to Becky Lynch or Chad Gable.
Yeah. It's made you actually visualise what that would look like, how like Natalya in AEW. And we were sort of talking about this before we came in to record. I understand why people would think this maybe isn't the most spectacular of signings, but as far as AEW is concerned, it's an incredibly shrewd one.
Yes.
I think. If you look at the improvements and strides forward AEW have made in 2024 in the women's division, Natalya coming in as this is not a derogatory term, as a player coach in that division, somebody with such a wealth of experience, getting name checked by the TBS champion and kind of inarguably at this point the division's biggest star, and Mercedes Moné, suggests that she'd already have tremendous influence and tremendous support of her peers and have that two-way relationship where she can bring so much brand new and yet at the same time offer so much experience to a lot of people that she'll otherwise never worked with. She's a really, really recognisable TV star, not just based on longevity, but the fact that she was massive in Total Divas, which has retrospectively been regarded as this huge crossover thing for WWE. Again, we've talked about several other wrestlers that have been considered needle movers and game changers and all those words when AEW make signings. I think in the short term, she would be that on television, and long term could offer something at a more sort of root and branch level in AEW.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think she'll change ratings that much, but I do think that she would be really beneficial for the greener talent within the company, without question. And she's done everything she can in WWE. She's been everywhere. She's won everything. She's had the most matches ever, I think, in women's wrestling history in WWE. So it'd be interesting to see what she would do if she jumped to AEW. Would we see, her try and reinvent herself, or would she, lean on what we all know about her? And what version of Natalya would show up? Like you say, would she be someone who just came in and kind of put over younger talent? Or would she be someone who's like, I'm going to break the shackles that I've had on me for quite some time and really showcase what I can do when I'm given the ball and offer the opportunity to run with it?
Speaking of that as well, just to add sort of further fuel to the fire at this point, she was featured quite prominently a few weeks ago on Raw as being part of what appeared to be like a stable of shooters that Sonya Deville was trying to build.
Yes.
That got parked, but it was then picked back up on last night's Raw when it's one of them sort of now kind of signature Triple H background conversations with Sonya Deville and Zoe Starks and Shayna Baszler trying to say, no, you don't need her, we're friends and that. Natalya was included in that. And
she's been saying it's time for a change, hasn't she?
Indeed, they appear to have continued the story with or without her in it. That's not to say they can't walk that back and just drop her back in, but it's just something to note as well.
I was there when Bret Hart was hanging out with Jack Whitehall at Double or Nothing for some reason.
Yeah, first AEW champion. First and best, many things.
Which one, Jack or Bret?
Christ no, Bret the Hitman Hart. Jack White will hand it to Brett and he became the first champion.
But we'll keep you posted on any developments with this. Very intriguing to see how this one turns out.
So yeah, Bret Hart was the first AEW World Champion, that's a fact. But a future one could be Ricochet. We have an update on yesterday's report that he was moved to the alumni page but that his contract hadn't run out. That was accurate yesterday on July the 1st until midnight when it actually ran out. Fair?
Okay,
That's fair aggregation. We're like, the thumbnails are clickbait, but when we start speaking, it's not the problem. Again, from Fightful Select reporting that the contract was finally set to expire, and it did so on July 1st at midnight. So now he is officially a free agent, done with WWE. That alumni page is for keeps. Next, of course, to Rick Steiner, the father of the man that put him out on camera, which is a nice touch. He moved to that page hours before the deal was up, basically. But he couldn't contractually appear at Forbidden Door as a result of it. You know, we reported about Dijak being back, so we report nothing. We saw other people's reports that he was Dijak was backstage at Forbidden Door, but Ricochet obviously couldn't feature kind of in any capacity at that point.
Big Dynamite post.
Indeed. Well,
Forbidden Door, though. Again,
like per the Fightful Select report, there's people within WWE and AEW at this point that fully expect Ricochet to sign with AEW. Quote, despite the speculation, Ricochet wasn't planned to face Will Ospreay at All In as of recent weeks. And Samantha Irvin is expected to continue as normal within WWE, but yes, expected to join All Elite Wrestling. This could be one of those ones where just because you know 99% of it, the 1% of doubt is going to make the shock debut or the arrival just as big a moment, I think.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Ospreay versus MJF at All In for obvious reasons. So. But it's a nice one to have in your back pocket. And imagine if Ospreay loses at All In, MJF takes the title off him, and he's a bit like down in the dumps, and then Ricochet comes out. It's like, let's have the best match ever.
And that's if Daniel Garcia, the hunk, doesn't take the international title on Beach this week, of course. Well, Ospreay might
be a really bad few days.
He could go into All In completely beltless.
Yeah. Well, how could he cheer himself up after All In if he lost there as well?
I mean, if it was me, bruv, I'd probably go to Sweet Shin Disco at the Crystal Club, just 5 minutes away from Wembley. It's like
it's really close.
If you consider
great venue,
it's a brilliant venue. Consider how difficult it is getting on the tube. You don't want that nightmare commute getting out of Wembley when it's mega busy. Taxes are a fortune. Go on a few beers. They're going to play some wrestling tunes. It's like such a cool idea for a club night, for an after party. Like, and the venue itself, like with it being like so close to Wembley Stadium, seems perfect in general for like wraparound entertainment, doesn't it?
It'd be great to gather there before All In.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we? Stay tuned.
Stick a pin in it. We'll come back to it. Someone who may well be at All In, potentially. He's British. Is ZSJ. I don't know when's G1 finish, actually. I think about it.
I don't know, because they were there anyway.
Okay, love him, he's great. Obviously, WCPW alumni. Again, AEW and New Japan, you're welcome. But he's been shooting. He's a great promo. I love ZSJ.
Yeah. I believe this one, though. I believe every word of it.
Effing idiots is the words that he used. Talking about his match with Orange Cassidy at the Forbidden Door media scrum. He said, to beat Orange Cassidy is massive for me, not only for it to be my first AEW pay-per-view victory. I think if there's anyone disregarding how talented Orange Cassidy is at pro wrestling, they're an effing idiot. So it's massive for me. He admitted that he felt he's liberated even in the ring with Cassidy. There's no pressure to bend the will of someone else's style. They could wrestle a match they wanted because they knew no one else on that card, arguably no one else in the world, could really replicate that. He rounded it off by saying his war with Cassidy isn't over yet. He's saying everyone should know how skilled should have known how skilled Orange Cassidy was. He wasn't just keeping up with me, he was outdoing me at multiple occasions, and then just luckily, I'm the best technical wrestler in the world, so I got him in the end. It was a little bit dicey a couple of times. The right result for me, ZSJ getting the win, is your pick to win the G1, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope he finally gets the push he's long deserved now, whether that be in New Japan or potentially, as alluded to here, more opportunities within AEW. I said this on the podcast, the Forbidden Door review yesterday. ZSJ is someone who, for my sins, I didn't know a huge deal about. I was aware of him, but before I really started at What Culture, it was WWE or bust, to be perfectly honest. And then luckily, obviously, through working with him through WCPW, I got to see how phenomenal he is in the ring. And I would describe him like, if someone said to me, do you want to see a wrestler who makes wrestling a bit like a chess match? Normally you go, no thank you, I want big muscly men and just big spots and what have you.
Big dumb stuff.
But he is just... Sid got it right. Hypnotising to watch as a wrestler.
Yeah, he's got just a stunning style. It's like visually really arresting, isn't it? Watching the way his body moves and captures an extra, like a flailing limb, he'll grab it and trap it and all that sort of stuff.
Sort of MMA adjacent in terms of like the guys who can just submit you from anywhere. You're like, oh, I'm sure I can get out of. Oh no, that's my arm being broken.
He sort of has like evolved his style along the way. I used to really love watching and tracking how long it was before he took a bump.
Yeah.
In a match as well, because he can sometimes go ages without flinging his body to the ground, and yet can still work the match of the night, which is incredible in and of itself. What I love about this in particular, I'm going to paraphrase a CM Punk quote that ultimately kind of came back to haunt him. Remember when he said, "If you've got a problem with Jungle Boy, I think you're the one with the problem." But I feel like that's what ZSJ has done here about Orange Cassidy. It's almost as if to say, from widely considered one of the best technical wrestlers ever, if you have a problem with Orange Cassidy at this point and his wrestling ability, the problem is with you. And like, there aren't many, I don't think, holdouts left.
No.
But it remains frustrating to think of like there being a grift market against the likes of an Orange Cassidy, and someone like Zack Sabre Jr. stepping up is all the nicer for it, isn't it?
Quite right, exactly, yeah. And it's worth noting that, despite the phenomenal stuff WWE have done all year, the best wrestling match of the year happened over the weekend. So, Orange Cassidy versus the Outrunners. If you haven't watched it, why haven't you? It's on Simon Miller's Twitter right now. I've watched it about 4 times.
I was just going to say I know the answer why. It's because it was on Rampage. But you can also find it on Miller's Twitter. So yeah.
Probably more people have seen it on Miller's Twitter than bloody Rampage.
That's the first thing on the track when we get out of this office.
Yeah.
Right, I might need your help with this one, Oban, if that's okay. There is an injury storyline that was occurring on Monday Night Raw due to a particularly violent ongoing feud. But it turns out somebody's berserked themselves into a shoot, brother, and it's for real. But the ability to read has fallen out of my brain, and I can't read that name.
The wrestler is associated with is, of course, Ludwig Kaiser.
Thank you very much. Yes, the Imperium member, of course, friend of Gunther, who was basically sunning himself over the summer waiting for his title shot, which has allowed Ludwig Kaiser to get a bit more of a prominent spot on Raw. He was
didn't buy us a beer when we crashed the WWE Wrestlers Bar after WrestleMania a couple of years ago.
So, rude. Baron Corbin did. Levels to this game. But no, Ludwig Kaiser was obviously scheduled to wrestle the Triple Threat last night and was taken out, replaced by Ilya Dragunov.
What a replacement, by the way. Nothing against Ludwig, but that match was class. We'll talk about it in the Raw review later.
Unbelievable bit of business. And yeah, the injury, people weren't sure exactly how long he was going to be out and all that sort of stuff, how much of it was a work to put Dragunov in and the like. Well, PW Insider came through to say the injury that Kaiser talked about on last night's Raw, the broken rib that he suffered against Braun Breaker, which makes sense when when you're selling the spear, etc., was indeed for real.
Jesus.
So as much as we love and celebrate that spear and how hard he hits it and how fast he hits it, the consequences can be dire, as Ludwig Kaiser experienced them. Hopefully not too long on the shelf, but yes, the time he is missing, the time he talked about last night, the rib injury, that's all for real.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised the speed that Braun Breaker gets up in that ring, or especially running around that ring, I should say.
What a segment with him and Sami Zayn last night. That feels big time, doesn't it?
Put the title on him. I love Sami Zayn. Put the title on him.
Yeah.
And then who knows? Maybe Ricochet comes back to challenge him for it.
Oh my god. Well, I've
I don't know, but
Money in the Bank talk later this week. Well, indeed, on the Raw review, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts, as well as later this week, coming to probably everywhere.
And as a man who hurt his rib go-karting the other day, I can really relate to that pain. I've moaned like I've had a broken rib for the last 2 weeks.
I love how you, all seriousness, you had a go-kart clatter into you while you're in the car, right? So
the Stag's go-kart, by the way, no punishment for that.
A moving car probably clattered into you. Fact this, at a slower speed.
Yeah, about 19 miles an hour.
Braun Breaker definitely hit Ludwig Kaiser faster than 90 miles an hour, didn't he? Bouncing off the ropes.
But yes, get well soon to Ludwig. I think he's been a revelation since he moved to the main roster. I also would quite like him to keep selling this for a bit longer so he can do the Gunther intro, but wince a little bit and Gunther be like, pull yourself together.
Stand up straight, yeah. Loving everything about Imperium with the exception of the absence of Giovanni Vinci. Please come back soon and bring the model bag with you.
I love it. It's so good. Yeah, I hope to see Giovanni Vinci on our screen very soon. We'll keep you updated on any developments with Ludwig Kaiser. Though. Let us know what you'd like to see him do when he's available to come back, and what you think about Natalya potentially jumping to AEW in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe, of course, and join us for the after news a little bit later on today. In the interim, why not watch this video right here? Bye.